October 5th in Israel at Mom's house, and she's going to read her valedictorian speech from June of 1944, late June
And this is October
5th.
20,
No, it's October 5th, 2018.
yeah. We Americans have been accused of being materialistic, of pursuing the philosophy that by making men richer, we can make them happier. It is true that our standard of living is higher than that of any other people, and that the maintenance of that standard has influenced our international relations. Today, nothing is more important to us than the winning of this war. Tomorrow, nothing will be more important than the preservation of the peace. Woodrow Wilson said that no peace can rest securely upon economic restrictions meant to benefit some nations and cripple or embarrass others. How far are we willing to go in removing such restrictions? How much have we already accomplished toward that end? The first problem with which the United Nations will have to deal is one of relief. Remember, this is 1944, which is the responsibility of the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration. As the Axis is pushed out of occupied lands, millions of hungry people will look to the victors for food. We are told there are 50 million destitute people in Belgium, Luxembourg, Czechoslovakia, France, Greece, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, and Yugoslavia, as well as 100 million people in China and 60 million in Russia who may need relief. In addition, there are also the millions of displaced populations, the refugees, exiles, forced labor groups, and others who have been scattered all over Europe and Asia by the war. The return of these persons to their homes and their immediate relief is one of UNRWA's big problems. Rehabilitation is a slower process and aims at making the nations self-supporting as soon as possible. That means supplying them with seeds, machinery, and equipment so that they can get back on their feet economically and begin producing the things which they need themselves and which they can sell to other countries. UNRWA must also plan ways of promoting increases in food production and getting the food produced to the people who need it. It is now clear that both these are world problems. They must be solved through the cooperations of all. And so it is agreed that the 44 nations of UNRWA are to share the expense involved. Since we are the richest nation, our share may be very large, as much as $1.5 billion a year on weapons. Yet we are spending an average of $86 billion a year on weapons of war. Wouldn't it be worthwhile to spend about 1/57th of this amount on food and clothing if it would bring our boys home sooner from foreign lands and buy us an insurance policy against another war? Closely related to this problem of rehabilitation is that of international trade. Our very first secretary, Alexander Hamilton, advocated a protective tariff as a means of furthering the industrial development of our country. Yet, as long ago as 1890, James G. Blaine battled for reciprocity with South America. President Wilson said that the removal or economic barriers was essential to world peace, and we have taken steps in this direction. In 1934, the Trade Agreements Act was passed, and Secretary of State Hull began hammering home this message. We cannot sell goods to foreign nations unless we are willing to buy products from them. Whether or not we shall renew our reciprocal trade agreements with other countries remains to be seen. But if we try to keep out foreign goods with a high tariff wall, the world will soon be plunged into trade conflicts. In addition to these efforts to bring about a lasting economic security, an agency of the old League of Nations is also still functioning effectively. The International Labor Conferences at Philadelphia has produced a Charter of Human Rights, which, if it could be generally adopted, would usher in the millennium. The Charter affirms that all human beings, irrespective of race, creed, or sex, have the right to pursuit of both their material well-being and their spiritual development in conditions of freedom and dignity, of economic security, and equal opportunity. Those who framed the resolutions can expect them to be expressed in national and international practice on the morning after the war's end. What the ILC conference has done is not to attempt to solve the problem of ways and means, but rather to set up a standard toward which, in its ripening wisdom, mankind may address. We are all agreed that all men everywhere should share in America's four freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from fear, freedom from want. Let us add to these another freedom, typically American, freedom of opportunity, and let us be willing to do our share in securing that freedom, not only for ourselves, but for the world.